Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating paradox, and this one is specifically geared toward those of you navigating the intense, high-pressure world of higher academia, like pursuing an MA or a PhD in education. Now, we've all been taught that academic success means gripping the steering wheel of our research as tightly as humanly possible, right? Pulling those all-nighters, obsessing over every single data point. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if to actually reach that intellectual peak you're aiming for, you absolutely must stop obsessively trying to control it? Well, let's dive into this and find out. Seriously, why do some researchers just seem to effortlessly publish brilliant papers and find these perfect conceptual connections, while others are working 80-hour weeks, fighting constant writer's block, and just ending up utterly burned out? I mean, we all know that one scholar who just seems to stumble into incredible fellowships or have these amazing aha moments. Meanwhile, so many others are exhausted, fighting the academic grind every single step of the way, and still feeling like they're falling short. So, what gives? Let's start with Section 1, the paradox of luck. According to the teachings we're unpacking today, luck isn't just some random blind chance. Not at all. Luck is actually defined as receiving what you desire without exhaustive, painful effort. When you see someone experiencing true academic luck, like making a completely serendipitous discovery during a literature review or just effortlessly synthesizing complex data, you're actually witnessing the absence of miserable, forced struggle. It's what happens when the intellectual process just flows. And this brings us to a highly counterintuitive truth. The lucky person is actually the one who does less. Now, hold on. In a PhD context, this absolutely does not mean being lazy. What it means is doing less anxious rumination. It means less comparing yourself to other scholars and actually stepping back to let your ideas marinate. True luck, it turns out, flows to the people who aren't constantly trying to force a specific research outcome using their ego. Moving on to Section 2, Arjuna's Chariot of Surrender. To really explain this, the source material uses a powerful metaphor from the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata, specifically the dynamic between the warrior Arjuna and his divine charioteer, Krishna. Think of this as a psychological metaphor for the two ways we handle our academic journey. On one side, you have holding the reins. This is basically our modern default, right? Micromanaging every variable in a study, agonizing over a supervisor's email, just completely overthinking. But on the other side is letting Krishna drive. This represents deep psychological surrender. It's trusting your methodology, embracing uncertainty, and finally tapping into a true academic flow state. The crucial point here is captured beautifully in this quote. If you are holding the ropes, how can Krishna drive the chariot? Think about it. As long as our academic ego, that desperate need to sound like the smartest person in the room or to force a predetermined conclusion, as long as that ego refuses to let go, we actively block intellectual breakthroughs. We literally block that deeper flow state from orchestrating the serendipity we crave, all because we're just too busy micromanaging the process. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the trap of overthinking. The teachings describe an aspect of our psyche called muna. Think of muna as the lower mind. It's driven entirely by fear, obsessive desire, and just constant complaining. For an MA or PhD student, muna is basically imposter syndrome personified. It's that intense dread of peer review, the crippling thesis anxiety, and that constant nagging inner voice telling you that your work just isn't good enough, and that if you don't worry constantly, your whole career is going to collapse. And the sheer scale of this problem is kind of staggering. Our source indicates that up to 80% of our earthly material outcomes are dictated by this blind, overthinking, lower energy, this mana, which is directly tied to our basic survival instincts. Just think about how much of your daily energy gets completely hijacked by this survival mode. Worrying about funding, stressing over tenure, or panicking about your defense. All that energy is being stolen from the 20%, the conscious higher mind, which is where your deep learning and actual creativity take place. So, how exactly does this lower mind ruin our chances at serendipity? Well, it happens through these specific traits. If we translate these to academic hurdles, it looks like obsessing over grades, being terrified of a harsh critique from reviewer 2, or just refusing to let go of a completely failed hypothesis. When you get stuck in these states, you become energetically closed off. The source describes this feeling as literally sitting on thorns. Your time just feels incredibly heavy and slow. You are actively repelling positive creative breakthroughs. And this leads us to a really profound realization. A miracle is something you never thought to obsess over. Think about your last true academic miracle. Maybe a sudden aha moment that connected two totally disparate theories, or just stumbling upon the absolute perfect paper for your lit review. Honestly, do those moments ever happen during a forced, panicked, caffeine-fueled all-nighter? No way. They happen in moments of mental stillness, like when you're taking a walk or doing the dishes. If you mentally plan out every single step, you leave absolutely zero room for serendipity to surprise you. Let's look at how to fix this in Section 4, The Art of Letting Go. This source presents this highly provocative rule to help bypass that anxious lower mind. Stop desiring. Desiring is forbidden. Okay, let's be clear. This absolutely does not mean giving up your ambition to get your PhD. What it means is that you have to drop the desperate, ego-driven need for academic validation. When you obsessively crave an accolade and fret over not having it, you're just broadcasting a massive signal of lack. To truly succeed, you have to shift your focus to the pure process of learning. Put the ultimate outcome in a little mental box and just step away from the anxiety. This brilliantly illustrates the day-to-day practice of letting go. Complaining about what you lack versus having gratitude for what is already given. The speaker in our source material uses a really great analogy here. Imagine a friend brings you a small snack. If you just complain that it isn't a massive, grand feast, are they ever going to bring you food again? Of course not. It's the exact same thing with your academic journey. If you complain about getting constructive feedback instead of sheer, unadulterated praise from your supervisor, you close yourself off to growth and future mentorship. You literally have to become a vessel ready to receive by finding contentment first. Section 5. Reprogramming your mind. Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? Here is a highly practical trick from the source material called the password technique. The whole goal here is to plant a seed in your mind without triggering your academic ego's defense mechanisms. Step 1, choose a short, positive goal. Step 2, set it as a daily reminder. Literally make it your computer password, or put it on a sticky note. Step 3, let your subconscious absorb it. Because you're just mechanically typing it out every single day, you completely bypass the overthinking and you stop obsessing over how it's actually going to happen. So let's look at some concrete examples aligned with the MA or PhD journey. You could make your password clear defense, joyful research, published 2024, or maybe impactful thesis. Now, at first, your anxious lower mind is definitely going to argue with you. It'll say, "Are you kidding? My draft is a disaster. I'm never getting published." But after weeks of typing joyful research every single day just to unlock your laptop, it literally becomes muscle memory. You completely detach from the anxiety, removing the stress of exactly how the thesis will get done. It sinks quietly into your subconscious, letting that serendipity work behind the scenes. But remember this absolutely crucial point. You must empty the cup of old pain to make room for new luck. The source gives the historical example of John D. Rockefeller, who possessed immense, unimaginable wealth, but was profoundly sick until he began to let go and give back. In the academic world, this means you simply cannot receive new, brilliant ideas if your mental space is being hoarded by past rejections, resentment toward a harsh professor, or bitterness about a peer-reviewed paper that just didn't go your way. You have to clean the slate. Drop the academic baggage to open up your capacity for the new. And that brings us to our ultimate takeaway. I want you to look at your own academic journey right now. Look at the things you're gripping way too tightly and ask yourself, what obsessive, ego-driven desire will you drop today to unlock your true intellectual potential and find your flow state? Are you going to drop the need to be perfect, the fear of critique? Remember, surrender isn't giving up. It's actively making room for serendipity to surprise you. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the explainer. Start practicing that detachment today, and let's see what intellectual miracles show up in those empty spaces.